Dear representatives of international organizations, UN agencies, European Union institutions, foreign embassies and consulates, diplomatic missions, international human rights organizations, humanitarian agencies, health and development programs, independent monitoring structures, international donors and foundations, civil society specialists, as well as respected experts, researchers and diplomats working in and with Turkmenistan. My name is David Omarov. I am the founder of the initiative Invisible Rainbow of Turkmenistan, an independent structure that for many years has been fighting against systemic repression, its consequences and violations of the rights of LGBT people in Turkmenistan, especially those living with HIV in conditions of deep isolation. We seek the repeal of Articles 133 and 116 of the Criminal Code of Turkmenistan, which provide for criminal punishment for so-called sodomy, a term that not only reflects a discriminatory approach, but is also used to legitimize systemic persecution of LGBT people. I speak to you on behalf of those who have no access to a voice, to truth, to protection. I speak to you on behalf of those who can no longer speak, on behalf of those who have been broken, who have been arrested, raped, subjected to torture, forced treatment, humiliated and destroyed. I address you not as an accuser, not as an adversary, but as someone who deeply respects your work. I know how limited your instruments are. I understand that you act within mandates, diplomatic agreements, protocols, and strategic balances. I respect the caution with which you work, and I understand why. I understand that your work is diplomacy, dialogue, a measured approach, and systemic engagement. I also highly value your presence in Turkmenistan and the role you play, the role of observers, peacekeepers, those who foster at least some dialogue in a complex environment. Yes, I understand and acknowledge. Many of the reports, recommendations, assessments, and resolutions that exist today became possible not thanks to action inside the country, but, first and foremost, thanks to the efforts of Turkmen human rights defenders, journalists, researchers, and activists forced to work in exile. Thanks to those who documented violations for years, who risked their lives and freedom, who knocked on the doors of your organizations so you could hear them. I am obliged to say this out loud. Today, you are the ones there, the ones who have access, which means that it is you who can either leave this pain outside the brackets or acknowledge its existence, at least at the level of attention, of mention, of recognition, for those who can no longer speak, for those who are no longer there. In Turkmenistan, it is not just the rights of LGBT people that are violated. The community as a social reality is destroyed completely. You do not see LGBT people because they are forced to disappear. You do not hear them because they are afraid to speak. They cannot come out, declare, demand, appeal, because it is mortally dangerous. And if they dare, they remain unanswered or receive a blow instead of protection. You do not meet with them because they do not believe anyone can help them. I remained alive. I remained conscious. I remained human. I survived. I found the strength to speak. I am obliged to speak, even if my voice is alone. Obliged because otherwise they will disappear physically, because no state has the right to erase an entire layer of people and remain unpunished. I know that many of you are already aware of this topic. Some have heard, some have read reports. Some may have witnessed more informal stories. I have no doubt in your humanity. But if you are hearing these words for the first time, do not think they have never been said before. They have been. There just was no one to voice them. I do not ask the impossible of you. I do not demand decisions that are beyond your power. I only ask. I ask you to help. I ask you to see. I ask you to hear. Just once, even for a second, even beyond the protocol, Even if you are bound by your mandates, even if you act with caution, give a sign that you know, that you see, that you have not forgotten, because in this silence echoes suffering. Because behind every violation is a real human fate. Because every silent LGBT person in Turkmenistan is an invisible victim who can no longer speak. Human rights are not an abstraction. They always begin with the specific, with the most vulnerable. Human rights begin with how society treats its most vulnerable. LGBT people in Turkmenistan, including those living with HIV, are an indicator of a society's maturity, an indicator of a state's honesty. And at the same time, it's a test for the international community. I know that you are working. I know that you are engaging in dialogue. But know this as well. Behind the walls of these negotiations is emptiness. Behind the protocols, suffering. Behind polite wording, a real, voiceless catastrophe. And you, perhaps, are the only ones who can still acknowledge it, and let my voice, even if it's alone, serve as a reminder that in Turkmenistan there exists a problem that cannot be ignored, even if it is uncomfortable, even if it is politically sensitive, even if it is painful. Because humanity is not always comfortable, but always necessary. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your presence. And let this voice, even if solitary, become the echo of those who are silent. Thank you.